everybody, so today we have a bit of a long post. Now this is going to go over Bruiser and Assassin balance. In particular, it mentions a lot of ability haste, as well as issues trying to balance these two classes. This was made by Hashinshin, and it goes over several tweets. Many of them are long, so when I say a long video, this might take me a while to go over, okay? So, this first tweet here, it's not really important, the entire tweet. It's basically just, I'm excited to announce that I'm the new lead gameplay designer for League of Legends. Okay, so Hashinshin is a new lead gameplay designer for League of Legends. Everybody get that? Okay. Now that's important because, you know, going forward through this, he's been looking at feedback. He's giving responses to the feedback, and this guy comes from a position of authority. He's not just like a random, like low, champion designer or something like that. He is the lead gameplay designer for League of Legends. Does everybody get that? Okay. So, after he came to the helm, well, before I go any further, I do want to mention, once again, as I always do, you can use this as a podcast. You can use this on your second monitor. You can just listen along. This is mostly going to be text in front of you. I'm going to try to show as much as I can, but feel free to just listen along and, you know, be on your phone or whatever. I know everybody gets annoyed, but once again, as I always have to say, the more I say that, the more, like, the longer the view duration of the videos tends to be, which then helps me in the algorithm. Leave a like, leave a comment, you know, help out, leave anything you want on that. Thank you, everybody. And now let's go into something I want to talk about. AD carries, in particular, have been talking about their class being weak. Bot lane is weak. Assassins are too strong. Bruisers are too strong. There's too much ability haste, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'm looking at Masters Plus. Here are the current champion popularities, or should say class, or role popularity. AD carry at Masters Plus is the second most popular role. Top lane at Masters Plus is the fourth most popular role. If we go all the way down to Iron, we can see that top is the most popular role, and AD carry is the second least popular role. That means if you ignore rank, and you just look at effectively who's trying to play the role the most, top lane is the most popular role, and AD carry is the second least popular role. Despite that, as you go up the ranks, top gets less and less popular, and AD carry gets more and more popular. Now, this has remained true for quite some time, but in recent years has gotten to be more and more true. So the problem here is that AD carries continue to talk about their role and their class as if they are very weak and not strong. Now, while at the lower ranks, I obviously agree that AD carries could be weaker. The problem is that at the higher ranks, AD carry is so overpowered that it basically can decide the game. Effectively, at the higher ranks, the jungler and the AD carry are the two things that matter, and everything else doesn't really tend to matter. Okay, so I just want to say that because, you know, there is this kind of myth, so to speak, of AD carries are just not played. No one wants to play them. They're very weak, right? That's just not true. In addition to dispelling myths is the myths that assassins are weak and assassins aren't played. Far from that, we can actually see at Emerald Plus, I could go to Plat Plus to show you, but it doesn't really matter. So at Plat Plus, but I'll go Emerald Plus because I think it gives a better. Emerald Plus is like the people who are at least decent at the game, right? We can see that Zed has a 39.3% pick, or say ban rate, 11.8% pick rate, the highest pick champion. Now, his 48.78% win rate is likely due to an overpopularization of the champion. I don't think he's like, oh my god, overpowered, but I think he's like a little bit overtuned right now, like a little bit. And overall, he's just a very, very frustrating champion, especially due to the safety and ability haste. However, in addition to that, we can see other champions that you could call assassins. Now, what is an assassin? What is a mage has been obviously controversial. Whenever mages are overpowered, people go, that's not a mage, that's an assassin. That's not a mage, that's an artillery support. That's not a mage, that's a control champion, right? Like, people split mage into 19 different classes, and it's a bit difficult to discuss mages because like 30% of the game is Bruiser. People just say Bruiser. Mundo, Bruiser. Garen, Bruiser. Aatrox, Bruiser. Aurelia, Bruiser, right? But then when it comes to mages, it's like hard, right? So is Ahri an assassin? Yeah, probably. Is Akali an assassin? Yes. Is Katarina an assassin? Debatable. Is Fizz an assassin? Yes. At either rate, we can see many, many, many champions being played here. Even if we exclude Sylas, even if we exclude Yasuo, even if we exclude Yone as not being assassins, we can see that champions that build assassin items at the very least, let's put it that way. We have Zed, we have Ahri, we have Katarina, we have Fizz, not Katarina, Akali. We have Fizz, Akali, Ahri, Zed are building assassin items. Maybe not AD assassin items, but assassin-y items, right? Now, if we're talking about AD assassins, this is when that gets a little bit more popular. AD assassins are not actually doing bad overall. If I search here, we can see Kiana 50%, Talon you saw 51%. There's not many AD assassins in the game to talk about, unfortunately, but we can see Kiana, Zed, they're all doing fine, right? Are they massively underpowered? No. Even in the jungle, we can see AD assassins. Kha'Zix is doing quite well for himself. He's been doing well for a very, 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 very long time. Are there any other AD assassins who can go into the jungle? Kayn is he an AD assassin this patch? Well, he's going Duskblade, so he's doing something, right? So like we see AD assassins despite being a very small class. So basically it's like what? Nefiri, Zed, Talon, Kiana, Kha'Zix, like there's just not that many of them, right? And despite that, overall as a class, they are continuing to do well. Even Rengar, who is he a bruiser? Is he an assassin, right? Rengar tends to do much better at the higher ranks and continues to do much better at the higher ranks. So before we talked about any of this, I just wanted to dispel these myths. The myth of AD carries a weak role. The myth of AD assassins are massively underpowered. It's a myth, okay? It just simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny, okay? Now, I want to say that because now we're going to go into these tweets, which are discussing this myth effectively, right? And I'm sure Riot has much better data on this, and they know a lot more about this, okay? For ability haste conversations that are going on right now, a few reasons for this. We've been trying to move certain classes away from damage and into other outputs. Example, assassins using haste instead of damage to make them more about repeatability and less about one-shotting. So what they're saying here is they have intentionally been moving assassins away from the funny one-shot combo, and they've been moving them more into ability haste and the ability to do more sustained damage and the ability to, at the very least, if not sustained damage, the ability to use their abilities more than once a fight. Does everybody get that? That has been an intentional choice by Riot. They do not want assassins one-shotting as easily. They do want them using their combos more. Okay? We still think that haste creep is better than damage creep in this respect. And I agree. I think that creeping ability haste is better than creeping damage. If you just run up and one-shot people, because like you guys remember in the past, right? What would Zed do? He would shadow clone forward into a Q, E, auto attack, and like people would be dead. And if you think I'm exaggerating, go back and look at videos before the durability update, and you'll see when AD assassins were at the height of their power before the durability update, that is literally what they were doing. Kiana was literally, she would dash through someone, then Q them, then auto, and they'd be dead. It was bad. She would flash ult the AD carry into a Q, and they'd be dead from full, right? Like, even now, her damage is really high, but like back then, it was like, she didn't need to hit more than like, maybe in like 2 abilities or like an ult and ability. We still think haste creep is better than damage creep in this respect, but preseason will make it better when items like Gore Drinker and Duskblade no longer give 35 to 45 ability haste by the sums. Okay, I actually don't like how he says that though. Because he says Gore Drinker and Duskblade as if they have 5 legendaries in their inventory. That rarely happens. Rarely do you get more than 2 items, but 5? Like when you're selling your boot for an item, that's a bit excessive, right? Like I get what he's going for, but at the same time, once Gore Drinker and Duskblade aren't giving ability haste, that's just going to open up more issues with balance, right? Because as we see throughout this entire post, they're saying like, we have directly lowered the damage of bruisers, we have directly lowered the damage of assassins, and we've tried to put more ability haste on them. But once you remove that extra ability haste, like, you know what I mean? Okay. For assassins, we still think we need to find that thing that assassin players still like that isn't haste or damage that will allow us to diversify their outputs. Things like assassins buying Umbral Glaive is good for this reason. So the thing is, okay, people don't like it when assassins have 100 ability haste. Okay, people don't like it when assassins kill people, but, well, what else can they do then? Like, their class is to kill people. Do they kill people by using their abilities a lot? Do they kill people by one-shotting them with their abilities? Like, if they can't do either of those, then what are they good at? So they're saying here is, okay, they could go Umbral Glaive, and then they can clear wards, and this gives them, like, utility. This gives them something they can contribute to the team that isn't just the funny one-shot. So if we do that, that's good for the game. And he goes more into this here, right? For fighters, similarly, players have complained about basically every output fighters have been given. Yes, 100%, this is true. This puts us in a bit of a weird bind where they can't have burst damage, can't have sustained damage, can't have healing, can't be durable, can't have good team fights, can't be good split pushers. Why can't they be good team fighters? As a class, they need very specific things like pre-nerf death stance to be functional. Can't be good split pushers because that's frustrating. Yes, basically, and this is the problem. And this is what everyone, oh my, it's like feels so good for a developer to actually say this out loud. Anything fighters do, people take to Reddit to complain about. They don't want fighters to be viable. They want fighters to be 40% win rate across the board for every one of them. If fighters have healing, they nerf the healing. Now, for those of you who say, oh my god, Hashinshin, actually, healing is still just as overpowered as ever. Okay, let's look at this. This dance has gone from 15% healing to 0%. It only heals on kill. Conqueror has gone from 15% healing to 8%. Wit's End, healing was removed. Lifesteal Rune from 9% to 5%. Okay, and that's just these things here. We can also talk about Ravenous Hydra from 18% down to 10%. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? Healing has been nerfed across the board so hard. And let's talk about Kane, or I should say Rost. Let's talk about Aatrox. Let's talk about all these champions, right? Healing has been nerfed so hard across the board. That is not arguable. You cannot argue with this. We are at the point when you can fight Aatrox or even Rost, and a lot of people won't even build a healing debuff because the healing is so low that you sometimes don't even need a healing debuff anymore. When fighting healing champions, that is how much healing has been nerfed. For those of you who are disagreeing with me right now, I'm going in your head and going, that's not true, that's impossible. If you remember, old Camille, before everything got nerfed, with Ravenous Hydra, with Conqueror, with Death Dance, it was very common for her to be healing 500 HP every Q2. I know what you're about to say. Well, actually, she still heals like 150 each Divine Cinder proc. Like 150, that's basically 500. Sure. And that is the problem. Effectively, right now, if you want to get healing in the game, you have to go Gore Drinker or you need to go Divine Sunderer. You have no other options because healing across the board has been nerfed so hard. So, they don't like when fighters have sustained damage, and that's what people are complaining about right now. People don't like that fighters have ability haste, right? They don't like that sustained damage. They don't like when fighters go Trinity, Wit's End, and that sort of stuff. They don't like that, right? So Wit's End's been nerfed really hard. Trinity has been nerfed really hard. Even with it being buffed for ranged champions, it's just nerfed really hard. They can't be durable. People don't like it when fighters are durable. They don't like Gore Drinker into Sterak's into Spear Visage. I don't like that. We have to nerf Spear Visage into the ground. We have to nerf Sterak's into the ground. We have to nerf Gore Drinker into the ground. They slowly get buffed back up. But the thing is, do you ever see people doing builds like that? Where you just go Gore Drinker into Frozen Heart, into maybe a Sterak's, into Force of Nature? No, Force of Nature is gone. It's effectively been removed. Spirit Visage is so nerfed, it has also been effectively removed. Even with all its buffs, you won't see anyone doing it, right? People don't like it when fighters can team fight. People don't like it when Death Stance actually allows fighters to team fight. They don't like that. People don't like Hullbreaker. They don't like... So basically, anything fighters can do, people say, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't want that to be viable. No, fighters... Like, literally anything. Can they be tanky? No. Can they do damage? No. Can they split push? No. Can they team fight? No. Can they lane? People don't even like it when fighters can lane. Can they late game? People don't like it when fighters are good late game. So, like, what can fighters do? They can't do anything, right? So what do they say? Them casting more abilities is what we've been leaning towards, because it at least channels their gameplay through their kits, which are meant to have gameplay, and needing multiple rotations to kill, though there are, of course, exceptions. Now, of course, he does note that when he says that we'll need multiple rotations to kill, people will say, well, actually, the Fed Jarvan landed his EQ into passive hit, into alt, into Q, and he basically killed me in one rotation, right? Like, people will say that, right? We landed his EQ into Gore Drinker, passive proc, ult, and killed me, right? Like, oh, he killed me in one, right? Sure. But, like, he's saying, like, most of the time that doesn't really happen anymore. Most of the time they need to at least, like, lay into you, land either their full combo or land, like, multiple ability hits, right? Because damage has gone down across the board. We don't have lethality Jarvan, just EQ or dead from full, right? And, yeah, that's obviously a good thing. And so what they're saying is this is what they want. They want Bruisers to have lots of ability haste. Yes. Though a lot of this ability haste creep gets solved when mythics are no longer contributing 35 to 45 ability haste by themselves and the power items is reduced by some amount. So I did obviously retweet and like this because I did like this post. So I agree with this entirely, but this did spawn a lot of people hating on this post, which spawned a second much longer post. Okay. But what do you overall think of this? Because I agree with this entirely. I disagree that reducing ability haste creep is a good idea because part of the problem is AD carries do so much damage right now. AD carries do so much damage that if an AD carry gets to free shoot, they can kill anything in the game very quickly. And so the problem is Bruisers obviously need to have lots of ability haste so that if they miss an ability or if they use an ability that they're not just dead in the next 2 to 3 seconds before they can ever do anything else. Because that's obviously a problem. AD carry players will say, well, obviously I outplayed you. But did you? Like, if Jax leap strikes in and you use your Lucian dash away, or if Jax leaps in and Melio Qs him out, or if Jax leap strikes in and Lulu ults him away, or if Aatrox lands his QW combo and he actually hits you, but oh wait, Lulu shields it, oh then she knocks you up, and then oh, you know, so Aatrox can't get the kill, or if Darius actually runs up, but oh he's slowed by Lulu, oh but then the AD carry is shielded, oh but now he's dead because he's been in range for 2 seconds and the AD carry has done 9 trillion damage to him, right? Like the problem is fundamentally that AD carries are so overpowered right now that fighters need to have these tools to compete. That's my opinion. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing that fighters can compete. The problem obviously fundamentally goes from AD carries. AD carries are so broken that everyone else needs to be broken to deal with them. AD carries don't like that. They want to be overpowered and be the only class that's overpowered, but that's not good for the game as a whole. In addition, a lot of the tools that supports have right now is in supporting and peeling away AD carries. Or I should say, peeling people away from AD carries. If you look at Masters Plus right now, we can see a plethora of supports are picked right now that can effectively render AD carries unable to die or be AD carries themselves. So we have Rakan. Yes, obviously it's very difficult to dive through Rakan. Shield, heal, knock up, charm, and walk you away, right? Nautilus with his pull you away, root you, slow you, knock you up, stun you, right? Thresh has his pull you away, slow you, giga slow you, stun you, pull you away, stun you, pull you away, stun you, pull you away. Alistar with, I mean, we all know what Alistar does. Senna is just a second AD carry, and when 2 AD carries are shooting at you, you don't tend to live very quickly. Thank you, Riot August, for designing this absolute monster of a champion who continues to show up broken every 3 patches. Surely we won't have to, oh, we're going to have to nerf her again. Pyke with his pull you away into a stun. Wow, Pyke's overpowered. Who knew that Pyke would be overpowered after they buffed a champion who was really balanced? Blitzcrank with his pull you. Like, you see what I mean? I don't need to go through all of them. The problem is, yes, obviously, AD carries do 10 trillion suns worth of damage. When you combine that with support peeling them, when you combine that with a lot of champions not having tools, right? AD carries just dominate the game. Talking about assassins here for a second. Assassins would one-shot an AD carry through a support, right? I think we all understood how that worked, right? You could, back in the day, you could exhaust Zed and shield the AD carry, and he would still kill the AD carry through it all, right? So obviously people don't like that. People don't like it when Zed can deal 10 billion damage and kill people. So what do they do instead? They make it so Zed can use his Shadow Clone board. People, they make it so he can Shuriken twice in his Shadow Clone very easily. He can Shuriken and E during his ult twice, right? But the problem here is that people don't like that either. People don't like that then when Zed has lots of sustained damage, lots of mobility. I mean, I don't like it. I'm part of this club. I hate Zed. I hate Zed so much. But, you know, for a Rioter, the question starts becoming, okay, so what can we do? People don't like it when assassins one-shot people. People don't like it when assassins have sustained damage and mobility and all that stuff. So what can we do? Incoming this next monster. Oh my God, it just keeps going. Incoming this next monster of a post here, where he took a lot of feedback for a couple of days and he put out this monster of a post. This is what the majority of this video is going to be on. I know we're already 20 minutes into this video and you're thinking to yourself, the majority of the video, I'm already 20 minutes in. What do you mean? There's more to this? Oh no. But yes, I wanted to make this post about assassins, not to defend any specific points, but to give some more transparency for how we currently think about assassins if people want to read it. Now, Frankson has been kind of carrying Farxon. There's Flox and Frankson, and obviously they're very unique people with very diverse names. Flox would never be Franks, okay? They're very different people. Okay, so he says, blah, blah, blah. He's going to make this entire post. Now, he is responding to the community, but he responds it in a very intelligent way, not in a stupid way with very bad stats where he tries to say that he's obviously smarter than everybody, but he basically defends the changes he's making by saying, look, we tried the other things. We tried your way. It didn't work. And, part of the problem here, and I think he goes into this later, part of the problem is they can't just make a class 40% win rate. It would be very easy to solve everyone's issues with assassins with bruisers by just nerfing them into the ground. Great. You can't complain about bruisers if they aren't viable. You can't complain about assassins if they aren't viable. Well, to be honest, I think AD carry mains still will. I think if it was at a 40% win rate, I think if Aatrox, Jax, Renekton, if all of them at 40% win rates, Riot would still see complaints from AD carry mains on these classes. And I think he goes into that later. So effectively this post is saying, look, we can't make them useless. We need to have them be good, right? So what can we do as a company? What can we do to have these champions actually be useful, but in ways that you don't find annoying? And effectively, as he goes through this post, and as you'll see, he basically says, look, it's practically impossible. So pick your poison here, but let's go into it. Similar to fighters, there aren't a lot of things we can give assassins that all players are going to be happy with, so we need to make some trade-offs somewhere. Pattern, power, budget, tuning. We balance assassins around 3 patterns. A luxury. Okay. I thought he was going to say like combo or something like that. I'm going to call it a luxury combo. Okay. I think that would make more sense if he called it a luxury combo. I think that's what he means. He just doesn't say the word combo. So I think he says a luxury in reference to pattern. So he's saying a luxury pattern, which also makes sense. Basically, I'm going to call it a luxury combo because that makes the most sense for everyone. Let's move on. Okay. So a luxury combo. A luxury combo is when Echo stuns someone with his W, then hits them with his ultimate. It's a luxury, right? Like, is it going to happen the majority of the time? No. Is it going to happen often? No. Does it one-shot people? Yes. Zed triple shuriken, that's when Zed shadow clones forward into an ult, then he hits them with the triple shuriken, and they go kaboomy boomy. This is when LeBlanc uses Q, then R, then W, and, procs her first Q, procs her second Q, hits her with the W, and one-shot you, right? So she just stands in front of you and uses the whole combo, not Wing into range, but rather just walking up slowly, Q, then R to get a second Q. That's her, when she shoots it forward. When she shoots the thing forward, and then she procs, and so basically she just walks up and combos you, right? When Talon uses his melee Q in a full combo, so when Talon somehow dashes on top of you, uses his melee Q so basically Talon uses W, slows you, walks up melee Q, procs his passive, ult, waits, melee Q a second time, procs his passive again, right? Like when basically they're saying a champion's full combo here, right? So I'm not gonna go through the examples. Basically, when an assassin does their utterly ludicrous full combo. Does everybody get that? Okay. These are patterns that cannot be done unless champ is extremely ahead or opponent is in the lower MMR brackets. So all of you watching this video probably said, what do you mean a luxury combo? I see this combo done all the time. What, you mean LeBlanc that just doesn't walk up to everyone and QRW? You mean Talon doesn't just get in range of everyone and just use his melee Q? Are you telling me everyone doesn't just get stunned by Echo into his ult hit? What? That's a luxury? That's impossible. That happens. Okay, yes. They tend to scale poorly with MMR. LeBlanc in high elo is unlikely to land many QRWs on a priority target, whereas ADCs are much more likely to be hit by them in lower MMR. Basically what he's saying is this is a way for assassins to still be good at the lower ranks where they're not as valuable. We give them a luxury combo. The luxury combo tends to kill the lower ranked players, but then the lower ranked players get very mad at these combos. I mean, he's not saying that they get mad, but he's kind of hinting that, you guys aren't really supposed to be landing, or you're not really supposed to be getting hit by these combos. These aren't supposed to be doable. Luxury patterns are still great to have, even though they can be impractical, because they result in awesome high moments especially for the majority of players in average skill who will land them more often. Okay, then he's talking about his standard combo. So he uses the word combo here, but he doesn't use the word combo here. B, standard combo, but A, luxury, and luxury combo. This is why you need to be able to edit tweets right here. Okay, standard combo. LeBlanc W. So when LeBlanc gap closes forward, then uses her R to copy it to gap close forward a second time. So she gap closes forward twice, then Qs in melee of you, then uses her chain to hit you again. So basically, without going too far into it, they're talking about standard combos, right? Standard combos. Zed only hitting 2 shurikens. LeBlanc doing her standard, not hitting the damage on her first W, but rather just using it as a gap closer. It's just your standard assassin combo, right? We want to have moments of gameplay in this combo, like proccing LeBlanc sigil, but not as much as a luxury combo. So basically, these are your standard combos. They do damage. They probably aren't going to one-shot people through a shield and stuff like that. But, this is your standard assassin combo. You use it to, poke someone down or to drop someone's health or in a team fight to, get your damage onto a priority target. Yeah. While they try to have as much moment-to-moment gameplay in these combos, some assassins are tuned more around playing the strategic game. Example, not being isolated against Rengar and the Fury. Okay, so what they're saying here is effectively these standard combos have significantly less counterplay, but in return do less damage. But in return, generally you can avoid them with your macro gameplay. The gameplay map, meaning don't walk up into the jungle and find a Fury as an AD carry. Don't walk next to a brush next to Rengar, right? Like they're saying, look, these are combos that are kind of easier, but you can avoid a lot of them by not positioning poorly. There's a significant amount of gameplay that goes into approaching a target that is primarily unnoticed by opponents. So in other words, Rengar can't just run up to someone. Yes, during his ult, he kind of can, but even when he ults, he's telling the entire opposing team, I'm trying to ult in. The Fury can't just walk up to people. Kha'Zix can't just walk up to people, right? If there's an entire team and they're all blocking the assassin, then that assassin can't just walk up to people. Kha'Zix can't just walk up to the AD carry and one-shot them. Sure, sometimes they can, but not all the time. So what he's saying here is there's a large amount of gameplay for getting into range that the community as a whole doesn't appreciate. As a Bruiser player, I can say that a lot. It's like, if you get into range on Garen, it seems easy to a lot of people, but if you get into range on Garen without just getting stunned, without just getting, burst down, it can be a bit harder than people actually appreciate, right? If I'm playing Garen and they're playing I don't even know, Kai'Sa Nautilus, right? Oh, I try to run into range, I press my Q, I'm jumping in, right? And then Nautilus hits me with his Q, Kai'Sa starts attacking me, Nautilus roots me, and I'm dead, right? So what he's trying to say here is, look, there's a lot of gameplay, there's a lot of decisions that are happening here that non-Bruiser, and I'm going to say Bruiser, non-Bruiser, non-Assassin players aren't really appreciating. They're not really noticing it, okay? We try to have as much power funneled into Assassin's gameplay buttons so that the snowballing scales with counterplay. So what they're trying to say here, they're trying to put as much power into their counterplay as they can, meaning what's the right way to put this? If you're actually performing your standard combo well, or if you're actually performing your luxury combo well, then you do a lot of damage. But if you're not doing the gameplay correctly, if you're not playing correctly, then you do less damage, right? And I think this goes also into his low counterplay combo, and they do say combo here. They just didn't say combo in luxury, okay? Low counterplay combo. So this is when LeBlanc just W's forward into QR, proccing the first Q, but not proccing the second Q, because she copies the Q with R, by the way, in case you didn't get that. So she Qs, then she Rs the Q. She doesn't even chain it. She just QRs, and then whoop, she backs away. These combos aren't expected to kill unless the assassin is very ahead. Everybody get that? So basically, assassins can use their entire kit to sink in some damage, but they won't really kill people. and they will do significantly less damage. Yeah, this is Kiana using her EQ, WQ. So she just chucks 2 Qs at you from across the lane. That actually does do a lot of damage, and that did need to be nerfed really hard many times. Chucking 2 Qs at you from across the lane used to like half health you as most champions, or even more than half health you. Even nowadays, it actually chunks you pretty hard. So maybe the problem is a low counterplay combo. Maybe Kiana's problem, Riot, if I'm looking into this, maybe the problem is you consider this a low counterplay combo. But in reality, this combo actually does a good chunk of damage. It actually does way more damage than other low counterplay combos, right? So it also kind of leaves her safe because she's not even in a dangerous position. So just something I'm thinking about here. But you guys get that? Okay. Assassins need to be tuned around their standard combo killing for the game to function properly, especially in higher levels of play, to avoid an overly dominant bot-focused or mid-mage meta. So basically, Assassin's standard combos need to be able to do damage, they need to be able to kill people, or else AD carries are overpowered, or else or else mid-mages will be overpowered. Like, the assassins need to be able to kill people with a standard combo or they'll be underpowered, which I think is agreeable. Standard combos still have some counterplay, less counterplay. They also do less damage. If you shield, if you heal, if you exhaust, if you do stuff like that, you'll probably live through the standard combo. Does everyone get that? I've seen a lot of posts on Twitter and things like that of like, where Kha'Zix will leap over and he'll like auto, he like leaps over Qs in the middle of the combo into an auto, into a W, and oh my god, they're still alive, but they'll have like 10% health, and reasonably at that point he just walks up Qs again, right? So there is, so basically here, both sides aren't really understanding the problem. The standard combo needs to do a lot of damage, but getting into range is more difficult than people appreciate. And also, for assassin players, the problem here is your standard combo shouldn't just... Assassins shouldn't just be killing everyone on their standard combo consistently. Assassin players, you guys aren't exactly doing bad. Okay? You're not exactly the assassin meme of posting on Twitter and Reddit. And, oh my god, I only did 90% of their health with a, it's just, you're not doing bad. Assassin plays, you're not doing bad. We have lived in worlds where assassins need to land luxury combos to kill, and there's far too much counterplay to keep squishy classes balanced, especially when it comes for peel from enchanters and tanks. So he's saying, yes, in the past we have existed in a society, in a world, if you will. Maybe not today, but there has existed in a society where assassins need to land full luxury combos to get a kill. Do you guys get it? Okay. And I don't think he says much more than that. He has said, though, that assassins have been undertuned in the past, which I agree with, but it just kind of comes out of nowhere. And then he also mentions, yes, enchanters and tanks do tend to peel people away and make it impossible for assassins to ever land a luxury combo, and it makes it impossible for assassins to, well, I shouldn't say impossible, it makes it very difficult to land standard combos. It's just not possible for Ruler playing ADC to realistically die, or any other high MMR ADC, when you have to hit him with Echo's W, LeBlanc's QRW, Fizz's R, or Zed's triple shuriken to kill him. The game's fundamentally rock, paper, scissors dynamic ceases to function. So what you're saying here is if you're good at ADC, and you have a good support, if an assassin needs to land a luxury combo to kill you, their full combo, every ability, then they will not die. Because a high MMR ADC with a high MMR support will not get killed. They will not allow an opposing assassin to land this full luxury combo unless the game has some weird oddities going on. Do you get it? So if they're tuned towards needing this luxury combo, then they just won't die. Assassins just won't die if they need to be hit by this luxury combo. Would be open to finding a way for assassins to be tuned around hitting luxury combos in low MMR, but standard combo and high MMR, but I just haven't found a good way to do that just yet. Well, and this is obvious. Like, he's basically, so the thing I like about Frankshin is that Frankson, okay, this guy, if you read between the lines, is actually so funny when you actually read between the lines, because the way he says things, he's basically saying, look guys, this is not possible. How could you possibly expect us to do this, right? Like, he's basically, man, if at low MMR, they needed way more damage, and at high MMR, if they needed less damage, that would make them more balanced. And it's like, well, but the opposite is that is true, right? Like, at high MMR, they tend to need more damage because assassins, I should say, supports play better. Assassins play better. They tend to get more shields, more heals, more peel. As AD carry players themselves tend to space better, right? It's like, it's impossible. It would not be possible. At low MMR, people will walk up and get hit by the full Zed combo, right? At high MMR, Zed will struggle to land any combo, and the ones he does will get shielded and healed. Do you guys get that? Okay. So if you read between the lines here, he's basically saying, look, guys, there's just no way. Like, are you guys aware what you're asking for here? Like, it just isn't going to happen. Assassin power curves. Assassins need to be strong early game, but not so strong that if they snowball out of lane, other roles don't have a say. Yeah. Assassins, because they're a more early game focused role, they need to be stronger early game. But when they were really, really strong early game with Qiyana, with Zed, with Talon, when they were really, really strong early game, the problem is they would kill their lane opponent, snowball out, start going bot lane, two-shotting bot lane, and then they would just win the entire game. And that wasn't really good for game balance. That was before the durability update. That sucked to play against. Zed would kill his lane opponent twice, then he would go top and one-shot Ornn somehow, and then he would go bot, and each shuriken would chunk half of the AD carry's health away. The main issue I see with a world where assassins are pure early game class, feast or famine, is if Qiyana snowballs lane and goes 3-0, which we'd expect to happen a lot if assassins are super strong early game. ADC other squishies don't have agency to affect how Qiyana performs in lane and are likely to get hunted constantly with little recourse. So what he's saying here, which does make sense as well. I mean, this guy's actually kind of smart in what he's saying here. Look, if assassins are super overtuned early game, then they go 3-0 in lane, and the AD carry doesn't get, like, the AD carry doesn't get to choose if the assassin gets fed, right? Like, he can't be like, you know, he can type in chat, play safe. He can type in chat, we'll carry if you don't die, right? Like, he can try to say those things, but if Qiyana just kills her lane opponent 3 times, buys Duskblade, goes bot lane and 2-shots him, he didn't get to decide whether or not that was going to happen. He didn't get to make that choice. So in a world where assassins are really overtuned early game, cough before the durability update, cough, and they consistently kill their opponent, and then they consistently get fed and go bot lane, the AD carry makes no choices. The AD carry does not get to decide at all. Do you guys get it? Yeah, and that's not good for anyone. Agency of mid and jungle assassins in this world would grow significantly when jungle mid are already the 2 highest agency roles. They can't buff assassin early game because mid and jungle are already 2 of the best lanes. So that would be a stupid thing to do. Why would you make 2 of the best lanes even more impactful? When you look at the agency of roles, right? Up at the top, you got mid and jungle. Consistently, historically, it's always mid and jungle at the top, right? So if they make assassins even better early game, and he's basically responding to what some people have been saying. A lot of people have been saying assassins need to be better early game. They need to snowball more. They need to be stronger. But the problem, and what he's saying here, what he's disagreeing with, without saying it outright, I think Freak would say, "You're all stupid. I'm the smartest man ever. Die." But like what he's effectively saying is he's refuting the arguments here. He's saying we tried this before. We tried assassins being really strong early game before, and all you AD carries who are still somehow in this video, despite me attacking you for 40 minutes now, all you AD carries who are still in this video, did you like the pre-durability update when assassins were very strong early game? When the 3-0 Qiyana went bot lane and just queued gap close forward into a queue on you and you just died from full? Did you like that? Probably not. So as an AD carry player, you need to accept that assassins will be stronger mid-game. You need to accept that assassins will have a shitload of ability haste because the alternative is probably not something you're interested in. Okay? He's also saying that, look, jungle and mid players who are complaining about assassins being weak, shut up, you're already pretty goddamn strong, aren't you? For this reason, we tune assassins to be above average early game, rather than very strong, strong mid game, and weaker in the late game. You guys get that? Assassins, instead of being giga strong early game, are just regular strong. They're kind of strong mid game, but not super strong. And then they're weaker in the late game, so they can fall off if you survive them all game. This also depends on the skill bracket. Most assassins are quite weak level 1 to 6 and higher levels of play, whereas they are strong in average play at these levels. So part of the problem here, and I can actually tell Riot the exact problem. I'm gonna put this in paint because I don't think Riot seems to understand fundamentally why this is happening. Never mind, I can't put it in paint because my computer is lagging. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna put this in paint. Okay. So the problem with assassins is they typically have a weak level 1, exactly at level 1. At level 2, 3, 4, they start getting a bit stronger. But right at level 1, when you have minion, right? Does everybody get that? And they're up against minion. You got the big guy over here, and you got the big guy over here, right? The problem is level 1 minion aggro doesn't really work. For some reason, you tuned it so that until a minion dies on the opposing side, the minions will constantly re-aggro back onto the minion line. That means that this mage, this Orianna, or this Syndra can continuously attack you over and over and over and over and over and over again until the minion dies. But the Syndra player can also ensure that her minion wave will be in an advantage. She can attack the opposing minion wave where the opponent can't because they're generally outranged and outtraded, right? She can continuously slow push this wave by getting the level 1 advantage. Then when she does have the minion wave advantage at level 1, she slow pushes it in. She always has the minion wave advantage, meaning it's hard for the assassin to fight back. So level 1, level 2, level 3 goes by, the assassin can't do anything. Level 4 goes by, the assassin still can't do anything. The mage backs, or they teleport back in, they have advantage, right? They teleport back in, now they have an item. Now the assassin is weak, so level 4, level 4, 5, 6, like the assassin is already being macroed out of the game. Do you guys get that? That's a problem with how the level 1 minion aggro works, and it really, really sucks. Mages tend to just outperform assassins at level 1, which wouldn't be a big deal, but you nerf Second Wind. Oh, we're going back to this, aren't we? Those of you who watch my video, how many times I go back there? We nerf Second Wind. We nerf Thorn Shield. It's much harder to recover from losing the level 1. Once they lose a level 1 due to the crap minion aggro changes, okay, now they start to just lose priority. It's bad. It's really bad. Nerfing Second Wind, nerfing Thorn Shield, making minion aggro have this weird mechanic to it has just been bad for game health, period. I will keep saying it every video until Riot addresses it. Haste on assassin items. Assassins need to have a reasonable average performance. Yes. While many assassin players, many ADC players would prefer if assassins were 40% win rate, that's not a class worth playing or being able to do its role in League. So yes, they could nerf assassins until they had 40% win rate. They could do that, but they won't. Assassins need to be viable, right? So the problem is, yes, if ADC players had their way, they could just nerf every assassin and make them non-viable. They can nerf every Bruiser and make them non-viable. But that's just not a viable approach to game balance, is it? Because it's not game balance. That's not balance. That's just nerfing nerfing assassins to make AD carries feel better. So what can they do then? Fine. They're not just going to make assassins terrible. Assassins overall, are they overperforming? No. Are they performing fine? Yes. Why are they performing fine? They have lots of ability haste. What's going on with this ability haste? The more outputs an assassin can offer to the team when behind means that when they snowball, their burst damage isn't so overbearing and there's enough agency for other roles to fight back. Less feast or famine. It's a balancing act. We want them to be able to carry the game when ahead, but it can easily go overboard. So the thing is, we want assassins to do more than just pure burst damage. They don't need to do pure burst damage. They need to do more things. So they've got the ward clearing lethality item. They've got lots of ability haste. They're still stronger. They're still able to carry the game, but they don't carry the game by just 2-tapping the ADC. They don't carry the game by just 1-tapping the support and just one-shotting everyone and winning the game. Okay? Non-damage stats on assassin items or a champion's AR, HP, MR per level allow us to bolster their win rates without sending their burst damage overboard. So if you gave an assassin more health, they would have a higher win rate. They would be stronger, right? But they're not like doing more damage. They just have a higher win rate. And I get this. I do get this. The only problem I have with this change is a lot of assassins right now have like bizarrely high HP at level 18, which has led to issues in the past with assassins building sustained damage items and just using their base tankiness to just brute force people to death. That's probably not good either, but what can assassins do to be balanced, right? And we're running into the issue. But I'm just pointing out the problem here with making assassins really tanky late game is we frequently get things like tanky, or I should say sustained damage Akali that just purely brute forces people to death with her sustained damage and her tankiness, right? But they're saying that non-damage stats and tankiness on their base stats allows assassins to reach that 50% win rate without just one-shotting everyone with gigaburst damage. Haste on assassin items is what we use to avoid these one-shot or be one-shot metas, which allow assassins to lean more on their utility spells and ultimates while behind, so they don't need to be overbearing when ahead to avoid the agency and counterplay issues associated with this. So in other words, if an assassin one-shots you in the past, that's all they could do. They one-shot you and they have no ability haste. Is that good for the game? Probably not. Probably not. Because when they're ahead, they can one-shot you. When they're behind, they can't one-shot you. And if they have no ability haste, and if they don't have anything else to fall back on, then they're useless. So they don't want assassins to be feast or famine. How do they do that? Ability haste. That allows them to ult more. That allows them to use their utility abilities more. That allows them to use a combo more often so that they can actually contribute more damage. In other words, they've just found that it works out really good for the game. Haste on items also means that in the case that an assassin does snowball, we have a balancing lever to make sure that standard combos don't degrade into low counterplay combos too quickly. What they're also saying here is if standard combos do less damage, then you can't do your low counterplay combos, for example, LeBlanc W forward QR, because in the past we have seen with enough magic pen, with enough damage, that LeBlanc can literally just dash forward QR and kill an AD carry. We have seen that in the past when mage items were giga-tuned into pure damage. LeBlanc could do that, and it probably wasn't that fun to deal with. If you can't exist on the map, well, yeah. Do you get it? Okay. He could also be saying that he thinks that if items do too much damage, that standard combos kill you very, very easily, and then they become low counterplay combos. Either way is fine. I agree with it. Basically, haste just works out better. If Duskblade didn't have haste on it, it would be an 80 AD, 18 lethality item, instead of 60 AD, 18 lethality. It is really difficult to tune standard combos to scale with counterplay appropriately when each item will spike your pure damage by this much. So he's saying here, if you could get an 80 AD 18 lethality item, then a second 80 AD 18 lethality item, you would just kill everyone very, 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 very quickly and easily with your combos. By giving them ability haste instead, they get more ability haste. So each item spike is lower. With this system, with the no ability haste system, with assassins going, I don't want ability haste. The problem is, one item power spike would be so high, that a 2 item power spike would also be so high. So basically, each item an AD carry, or sorry, each item an assassin completed would allow them to one-shot an AD carry even harder, which would be very difficult to balance, especially because if they snowballed hard into a completed item, once again, we're getting back to they can one-shot people. We don't want burst damage to be so low that assassins are opting into Gore Drinker and things like that, but we consider items like Black Cleaver to be items that assassins pick up sometimes, especially for some of our more spell-oriented assassins. So they're saying they're fine with assassins building Black Cleaver, they just don't want them opting into Gore Drinker, which is fine, because when you look at it, let's look at Plat Plus to get like a good mix of low rank and high rank. We can see that while Zed sometimes does build Black Cleaver, that most of the time he goes Thrilda. He also goes Ravenous Hydra Brush the majority of the time. So Zed overall is building no health other than Edge at Night. Most of the time, he's not building Black Cleaver. He sometimes does, and that's fine. If we look into Jungle, we can see Kha'Zix as another example. He has Edge of Night as a health item. Other than that, his most popular items are just pure damage. Black Cleaver rarely shows up. So they're saying they're fine with assassins sometimes building Black Cleaver, just as long as they're not doing like a pure sustained damage like Gore Drinker Black Cleaver build, which I don't think any assassins are doing right now. So they've actually hit the mark on that one. The downside of using non-damage stats like Haste as a balancing lever, however, is that like now there'll be lots of complaints around mage builds. However, I think that this is mostly a Zed issue, and we agree Zed needs to be less magey long-term. So they're saying here is that when assassins pick up a lot of ability haste, that they can start playing more like a poke mage and less like an assassin, where they're just sort of spamming all their abilities over and over and poking you down rather than just assassinating you. Does everyone get that? I don't think this entirely is true, and I think, yeah, this is just mostly a Zed issue. How many assassins can really play like a mage? Maybe Kha'Zix with his W, but that's been tuned into the ground. Kha'Zix's W has been nerfed so many times, I don't think ability haste Kha'Zix W spam is really a big issue anymore. I think it's really just a Zed issue because, yeah, I mean, he just pokes with his Shadow Clone over and over and over again. And yeah, that annoys a lot of people because it's so safe, too. LeBlanc maybe could do this, but yeah, I mean, it just seems to be a Zed issue. I mean, Neferi can Q spam, but that's more of a mid-range ability. Talon could W spam, but that's not really consistent and it's kind of short range. I still think it's better than having one-shot or be one-shot meta. And I agree 100%. It is 100% better to have assassins of ability haste than to have them just be funny one-shot champions. We don't want to turn assassins into mages or bruisers, but having some haste is still valuable. Agree that mythic passives are providing too much though. Yeah, they don't want assassins to play like bruisers and just sustain damage you in melee. They don't want them to play like mages and just constantly spam abilities at mid to long range, right? And I agree, yes, assassins should be their own thing, and they are, for the most part, their own thing right now. Really, I agree that it does seem to be Zed is the only one breaking this. Ideally, if a build is high haste, it probably sacrifices some upfront burst. That trade-off may not be manifesting correctly in all places right now, but in my opinion, isn't a problem with the underlying idea, but more about specifically how it's tuned right now. So, I like how he uses the word here. The trade-off may not be manifesting correctly in all places right now. He basically is saying, sure, some of you might notice that you can dodge an assassin combo and then they can use it again. Sure, sometimes they combo twice, but like, you know, again, in my opinion, is not a problem with the underlying idea. He's like, look, if you dodge an assassin combo and then they get it back and they use it again, what's the problem, right? Like, at some point, somebody needs to die, right? You can't just dodge assassins forever, like, kill them. If you dodge their combo and if they're not dying, then they're playing correctly and they're playing safely. So isn't that what they're supposed to do? If you dodge Talon's combo and he gets out and tries it again, isn't that supposed to be his gameplay? Right? Isn't that it? Isn't that supposed to be the gameplay? Like, what do you want? An assassin misses their combo and then they need to, like, retreat into their assassin fortress, their dark assassin fortress. They retreat in there and then they try again, like, 12 years later once they get their cooldowns back. That would be ridiculous. Duskblade being stronger than Eclipse or Youmuu's on many AD assassins is contributing to a good amount on this, and things hopefully get better post-preseason when single items aren't giving really high amounts of ability haste due to mythic passives. I feel like we're scapegoating Gore Drinker along with Duskblade. Like, you keep mentioning Duskblade giving a lot of ability haste. Like, yeah, at 5 items, Duskblade gives you 40 ability haste. Yeah, that's a lot. But, like, maybe that's a Duskblade problem. It just seems like Gore Drinker is being dragged along for the ride. I mean, he says it so many times. It's more specifically about how it's tuned right now. Single items aren't giving that high amount of haste due to the mythic passive. Agree that mythic passives are providing too much though. Like, yes, I agree. Duskblade gives a lot of ability haste, but like you keep mentioning it, like 3 times in a row, you're like, it's Duskblade, guys. It's Duskblade, guys. It's Duskblade, guys. It's Duskblade, guys. Like, you're trying to say that, oh man, this would be better in the preseason. Just bear through it now. Like, okay, fine. Like, at a certain point, like, I understand why he's not just saying that out loud. You don't want to tell people out loud. You don't want to say the quiet part out loud. Like, look, guys, I know they have too much ability haste now, but like, wait till preseason. It'll get better. I promise. Like wait 3 months, guys. Like, I think the problem is in the past, a lot of people have been mad because Riot doesn't change their game. But I mean, yeah, it is true though, right? Like, it is true. Like, if you agree that Duskblade is giving too much ability haste due to the mythic passive, then maybe you could change it right now, right? Like, maybe right now just change Duskblade's mythic passive. Or if you don't want to, then that's fine. And maybe in the preseason it'll be better. right? But then like it's kind of like he's trying to say like, man, right now it's just tuned this way. Just if you're annoyed at this, wait till the preseason. But then the problem is like he's like defending it at the same time. You know what I mean? He's like trying to have it both ways. Like it needs to be this way to be balanced, but also don't worry, I know it'll be more balanced in the preseason. Like it just, I don't know. Is it just me? Is it just me? Base damages versus ratios. Bases need to be low and bonus AD high to prevent bruiser builds like Talon is going right now, and we'll want to follow up on him at some point. Is Talon really going a bruiser build though? I mean, let's look into this. Let's see. His most popular build is Duskblade, Prowlers, Cyrildas, Edge of Night, sometimes Black Cleaver. I mean, the problem with Black Cleaver though, is that Black Cleaver stacks up instantly on his passive and then procs the other effects of his passive, and his passive is a large amount of damage. He can literally proc Black Cleaver basically instantly. Sorry, and then have the rest of his passive and the second half of his ultimate get 30% pen. If I look into his build paths, we can see, even if we go to like Masters Plus, Bruiser build is not showing up anywhere. I'm ignoring the win rates, just like look at how many are being, there is no Bruiser Talon. I feel like you're being memed into this. I feel like what's happening is Twitter found a build and spammed it a lot, and now Franxen thinks that like it's an actual build that's happening. But guys, I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at the Masters Plus. Let's look at Challenger Talon. Even in Challenger, we are not seeing a single Bruiser build. Zero. None. Zero. Okay, at best, we're seeing Duskblade into Black Cleaver into Distance, and that makes sense, right? Like, you're going to play Talon, you get Black Cleaver because it synergizes him a lot, then you're going to get Distance because after you get a kill, you can then heal a little bit and reduce some damage you take a little bit, right? Like, okay, great, what's wrong with this? Is this really so game-breaking? And we're still seeing that Ghostblade into Prowlers and Edge of Night is by far picked more at Challenger. And this is Challenger, okay? So I feel like he's getting memed to death here, that people are proclaiming this build as the best ever, when really stats show that it's not really that popular, and even calling that a bruiser build is a little bit of a stretch, right? But fine. The rest of this comment, base damage needs to be low and bonus AD high. Okay, so what he's saying here is lethality items overall tend to have more damage than bruiser items. So if they don't scale on base AD goes up per level. Some people don't get that. So if an ability has base AD like Aatrox, let me pull up Aatrox here just to show you guys what I mean. If you look up Aatrox, at level 9, Aatrox has 93 damage. At level 18, Aatrox has 145 damage. So Aatrox is getting 52 damage by going from level 9 to level 18. That 52 damage will then apply to his Q because his Q is total AD. Do you guys get this? So if his Q was base, or sorry, because his Q scales on base AD. If it's scaled on bonus AD, well, how does he phrase it? I need to use his phrasing. Bonus AD. BAD. Oh, so he does use TAD, and okay. So total AD makes Aatrox's Q scale up the more he levels up. Bonus AD would mean that it wouldn't scale up the more he leveled up. They want Talon to scale on bonus AD, so Talon can't just build a bunch of bruiser items while leveling up and then using that leveling up damage to scale his abilities. Does everybody get this? Talon's W will do the same damage at rank 5 if he's level 9 or if he's level 18. Does everyone get that? Aatrox's Q will do more damage at level 18 than if he's level 9 because it scales on total AD. They want assassins to not scale on total AD because that would allow them to continue to get more damage while building tankier items. Okay. We use base AD to be able to use a higher ratio number. Bonus. We use bonus AD to be able to use a higher ratio number. Bonus AD ratios are higher than total AD ratios and have a fine control over the scaling of levels versus items. So basically, I don't entirely agree with this, actually, at this point. I don't think that's entirely true. For some champions, it's true. I agree. that bonus AD ratios can be really high. Like Talon's bonus AD ratio on his abilities are really high. 2.0 on his ultimate, 1.2 on his W, 1.0 on his Q, 2.1 on his passive. Like, yes, these numbers are really, really high. But even comparing them to Aatrox kind of feels like Aatrox's Q combo, if he crits at all, is 540 damage, right? Like, and that's not just Aatrox, really, like Renekton's W with its 2.25 AD ratio if he uses Rage W, right? Like, I'm just saying, in theory, this is true, but it's not also entirely true. Yeah, this feels a bit more like, in theory, we believe this, but in reality, it's not entirely true. You know what I mean? Assassins need to have some natural scaling from base damages. However, bases should be at the optimal values so that assassins are not just a pure early game class, because this will skyrocket their agency too much. So because assassins don't scale on total AD, they don't scale up their abilities per level. They only scale them up per rank and per item, right? So they need to have some natural scaling from base damages. So I think, as we can see here, what he's talking about is the damage per rank of the ability needs to be high. They need to have some damage per level on their abilities as well. So like Talon's passive damage goes up per level. So in effect, okay, so the problem here in what he's saying is he kind of makes a point and then he just totally disagrees with his own point. I mean, I guess they should have less scaling per level, but some scaling per level is his argument. He's not really making it conclusive, especially because the bonus AD and total AD difference is not as much as you're thinking here. Yes, some assassins have very high total AD scaling on like a perfect combo, but then some bruisers also have some really high scaling on their perfect combo. For example, if we look at Renekton here, what was Talon's full combo scaling? It's like 2.1, 3.1, 4.3, 6.3. So Talon's whole is 6.3 total AD. But then we look at Renekton. He's got 2.25 on his W. If he uses another Rage Q, that's 1.4. So that's 3.6. Then 2 E's is 1.8. Right? So what is that? 5. What did I say? 5.4? Something like that? And then his ult is 10 per second. 0.05 per half second. So 0.10 per second. So what I'm saying is Renekton's combos, despite this one being total AD and this one being bonus AD and this one being bonus AD, they're not really that far behind. And it just, I don't know. Is that me? I guess if Talon hits both passives, they're very far ahead. But then that kind of discounts the fact that, like, bruisers can also sync auto attacks into their combos much more easily than assassins can. And you know what I mean? I just kind of disagree with this. In theory, it's true. Like, but then the thing is, like, the thing is, bruisers have been given like a lot more AD ratios over time because they didn't scale well. Because bruisers did not scale well, they had to be given higher AD ratios to compensate. And now we see a lot of bruisers actually do scale well recently. I mean, you could, yeah. I'm not gonna go to it any further because this is kind of argumentative. If bases are too low, then for these champions to have a reasonable average performance, the ratios need to be higher to account for that. But they can't be so high that if Zed snowballs 3-0 out of lane, he cannot play. So what they're saying here is, obviously, these champions need to have decent enough base damage that their AD ratios don't need to be higher because of the 50% win rate, right? If you give Zed 10 damage on his Q, his win rate would be 5%. So how much AD ratio would his Q need to have for him to have a 50% win rate? Would it need to be a 500% AD ratio, a 10,000% AD ratio? Like, what would the AD ratio need to be for Zed to be a 50% win rate? Because I need Zed to be 50% win rate. They need to be balanced, right? So the bases need to be high enough that the AD ratios can be low enough that he doesn't snowball the game out, but also that he's not too strong early game, which obviously they're saying this is a problem. How do you balance that, right? Like, how do you reach that fine-tuned number? What is enough base damage that he doesn't auto-kill his opponent, but not enough base damage, or sorry, what is, let me rephrase this again. He needs to have not enough base damage that he doesn't auto-kill his opponent, but he needs to have enough base damage that his AD ratios aren't too high. Do you guys get it? Because he must be 50% win rate because he has to be balanced. So bases need to be high enough that an assassin can do their job, even when they're not snowballing, but not so high that they still kill squishies while behind. This is a tough balance, but still ongoing. And that's this entire post. Okay. So, in effect, what he's saying here is ability haste helps assassins be way more balanced. He doesn't like how much. You know what? We're gonna write it down. We're gonna write this down, class. Take notes. Everyone, take notes because we're reaching the end of this video because we're reaching the end of this post. Ability haste helps balance assassins. Dusk's Blade gives too much ability haste. I'm gonna put mythic passive there so people know what exactly is giving too much ability haste. Okay. Base damage needs to be high, but not too high. Assassins need to be 50% win rate. Viable class. Does everyone get this? This is basically what he's trying to say in effect. He's not going to make assassins unplayable because that would be stupid. Assassins are for the most part doing fine, but he does agree that Duskblade is giving them too much ability haste. He does agree that assassins cannot perform their luxury combo at the high rank, so they need to be balanced more at their standard combo. But the problem is, at the lower rank, people tend to get hit by the standard combo or even the luxury combo, then complain about assassins. Does everyone get this? The problem is also that at the higher ranks, that if assassins don't do enough damage, that at the higher ranks, then they will literally never kill an AD carry. And if they can't kill an AD carry, then they're a useless class. Does everyone get that? Okay. So, yeah. Does everyone understand what's happening here? Does everyone grasp the situation? And that's this entire post. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think? I pretty much agree with everything for the most part. Ability haste is good for assassins. Ability haste helps balance them more often. If they can use their combo more often, then they don't need to do one combo to kill people. If they can use their combo more often, then they can help carry a game by killing more people. If they have less ability haste, then they need to be doing more damage, which doesn't feel fun for everyone. In addition, having more ability haste allows them to use their utility, like gap closers, more. It allows them to use their ultimate more. Without ability haste, they can only use their ultimate once per 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes, depending on how long the game is. Meaning that if that's all they can do, then their ultimate must massacre the opponent, or else they will never get back to it again. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? That's going to be about the end of this video. I have nothing more to say. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to leave a like. Make sure to leave a thing, I guess. Subscribe to my Patreon. Join my variety channel. Subscribe to my Kick channel. Become a member. Thank you all Patreon members. Thank you all Kick subscribers. Thank you all YouTube members. Thank you everybody. And have a great rest of your day.